How we doing? Episode 4. Now, I feel like we'll have to stop announcing that at some point, but for like the first 4 or 5 episodes, we should probably say it is episode 4, episode 5. Whatever the number is, we should just go with it, I think. Obviously, I don't have anything written down. That's not my style. But today, I do have some things that I want to talk about and address. We'll start off with a little bit of non-serious shit because we're going to get into some serious shit because there is a lot of things that are going on, especially in this state in regards to the issue that we've been talking about in the last couple episodes, which is vaping. But before we get into that, I do want to talk about some pretty interesting stuff that I read today. First headline, I'll be reading off the other screen, so if I'm not looking at the camera, I'll apologize right now. Sorry. Okay, hand signs added to Anti-Defamation League's list of hate symbols. Now, I read this article. I was like, all right, what kind of hand signs? Most people are offended by this one. And that's the only one that I know that people are offended by, actually. But anyway, so it is now in the Anti-Defamation League, which I know what that is. I've heard of them, but I can't go into detail about what they do. I assume that they are a handful of millennials that dream up of bullshit that they want to be offended by, because this hand signal is now part of the Anti-Defamation League. Now, they say it means white, so this is supposed to be a W, and then the P is supposed to go down to say power, but I don't see where the correlation is for white power unless you add a little stick there. Now, back in my day, you turn it around. Oh, go ahead and punch yourself. But back in my day, you turn it around, and if you looked, you got hit. So if you just looked right now, you're going to get hit. But anyway, it said that they also added a few other things. It was nothing too serious, but I thought that was the most interesting thing that they added to a list of, hate symbols. I mean, when I think of a hate symbol, I think of, a white robe, a Ku Klux Klan hood. Rarely do I think of this. I'm sorry. See, I wanted to go old school with it, but yeah, this is white power. So don't tell anyone that you're okay, because they might think that you are a white supremacist. All right, just remember that when you go out into the world tomorrow. Also, another not serious, not funny, but on a semi-serious topic, we have a actual win for marijuana. Yesterday, the U.S. House of Representatives did pass a bill that would grant legal marijuana business access to banking. So if you don't know too much about the marijuana business at all, you're not a pothead. Those are the only people that keep track of what's going on in pot laws, unless you're an investor, which it seems that marijuana might become a better investment now that, these people are actually allowed to use banks now. So for the longest time, since the beginning of regulation, whether it be recreational or medical, you would have to make a debit card purchase, or you would have to pay cash for your marijuana, because these facilities would have to keep all the cash on hand because they were not allowed to deposit in banks, even though that they were regulated to do business in their state, because federally, the banks have to follow federal regulations. So a bunch of these dispensaries, that's why they have to have security cameras, security guards, armed guards at a lot of places, because if you think about it, they're definitely making a lot of money because people want to smoke weed. But at the same time, those are high targets for robbery. They have a lot of cash on hand because they were unable to use banks. So that's a huge win for the marijuana industry. The act actually passed 321 to 103. That probably means something is coming on the back end of this. This is kind of the last big hurdle one of the last big hurdles for federal regulation. So I bet in the next 3 to 5 years, hopefully we'll see full federal regulation. Might be sooner, might be a little later, but I think this is a really big step in federally regulating marijuana. So for all you potheads out there that don't live in a legal state, which is becoming fewer and fewer states, that's a win for marijuana. We'll just chalk it up for all my old Indiana buddies who will never see legal marijuana, even if it's federally regulated. Someone like Mike Pence will definitely come in and shut that shit down immediately, because that shit's bad for you. All right, and moving on to our final topic, which I'm going to go a little bit into depth. I've done a lot of research about this vaping thing over the last 2 days. Really interesting stuff. And the only reason, even if you don't vape, I do find it interesting, and you will find it interesting also, just because of the hysteria that has surrounded this whole story. Everyone is aware, and I want to make sure that you're not spewing bullshit out of your mouth when someone is talking to you about vaping. You can't just be like, oh, but the kids, and it's bad, and it's just as bad as cigarettes and all that stuff. I want you to be able to not sound like an idiot when someone brings this topic up. So, first thing I want to talk about when it comes to vaping-related illness, the CDC did release a new report today. There is now officially 805 cases in 46 states, and there are now 12 deaths related to vaping lung injuries. That's 12. Yeah. Yep. Everyone's dying. That's 12 deaths. We better ban it. Oh, but wait, that's what Mr. Charlie Baker did yesterday. He decided in the great Commonwealth, in the great liberal state of Massachusetts, outright ban instantly for 4 months. No questions asked, no anything. On Tuesday, he comes on the TV, makes this statement, and he says, guys, but the kids. So they immediately enacted a 4-month ban on all vaping products. Now, I had some statement. Give me a second. Where did it go? This includes everything. This includes everything vaping related. So this is your vape batteries, your vape juice, your dry vape. So your stuff like your packs. If you don't know what that is, a dry vape would be something that you would take herb, crush it up, and put it into and just heat up the herb. It's not actually a juice. Vaping products does not include any product that has been approved by the federal FDA, either as tobacco use cessation product or for other medical purpose, and which is being marketed and sold or prescribed solely for the approved purpose. So that statement is kind of interesting, considering on Monday, before Charlie Baker decided to ban all these vaping products in Massachusetts, the CDC, which we did talk about in a previous episode, the CDC did approve the IQOS device, which is Philip Morris's vaping device, for sale in the United States of America. Kind of interesting. So I was wondering, they always say follow the money, and it's usually true. And there's a lot of corruption in politics and a lot of people lining each other's pockets. So I decided to do a little bit of digging. And what I found was slightly alarming, but not surprising. I mean, when you elect rich white cocksuckers, what do you expect? I mean, they're just trying to get rich just like everybody else is. And money talks, baby. Everybody's got a price. If there was a pile of shit in front of me and someone said, eat it, they would eventually get to a number where I'd be okay with eating that shit. So let's go into a little detail about the history of, tobacco in a lot of these states. So in 1998, there was something called the Tobacco Master Settlement Agreement. Now, this was, I think it says it was the 4 largest tobacco companies, which was Philip Morris, R.J. Reynolds, and Lorillard, whoever that is, and one other smaller company that no longer exists. So they were, this money was funds that were for new anti-smoking advocacy groups, especially ones that were trying to keep cigarettes out of children's hands. Now, the settlement was going to be based on the future projected sales of tobacco. Now, if we fast forward, let's see, how many years do we have to fast forward? What is it? This is 1998. It is now 2019. So if we fast forward 21 years, we have some interesting data over here. That's the wrong desktop, Tizzle. Oh my gosh, unprofessional YouTube. All right, let me pull this over here. Okay, so if we look at this, the actual tobacco settlement payments received by states in the millions. So we started in 1998, we see it's 0. Now we see that the highest month was right after 2002, 289 million. And we see that it's slightly gone, blah, 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 blah. And now we get to 2018, where it seems to be falling off a bit. And it's going to start falling off even more, because the tobacco industry has seen an 8% decrease in March, and they saw a 5.3% decrease across all of 2018 on cigarette sales. So you can probably see where I'm going with this. Charlie Baker, well, here's the timeline. You have the CDC, or the FDA, approve the IQOS device from Philip Morris. Then Charlie Baker comes out in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and says, hey, we're going to ban all vaping devices for 4 months, except for this IQ, or except for any device that has been approved by the FDA. Now, this goes to show that Philip Morris already was lagging behind in the vape sales. They had 0% of the market, while Juul had 75% of the market. And now, we can see what has happened to Juul based on the vaping crisis. They're already getting backlash from the FDA. They're all getting backlash from the CDC. And they're not going to be able to meet these regulations that are going to be proposed by the FDA. Philip Morris sent the FDA, along with their IQOS device, when they sent it to the FDA, they submitted a 1 million page report on why their device would be better, wouldn't appeal to kids, all the regulations, all the tests that it had passed. They did a 1 million page work. And if you can see, they're setting themselves up to be the first one to market. So by Charlie Baker banning vape devices for 4 months, he is able to, anyone that owns a small business, anyone that has any skin in the game, in 4 months, these small business owners who are selling vape juice, they can't survive. He's literally going to put all those people out of business. And at the same time, Philip Morris is going to come in and say, oh, but we have this new vape device that has been FDA approved and it's safer than all the other shit. That will ensure that states like Massachusetts, who were in this tobacco master settlement back in 1998, will get their tax dollars, or the money that they are owed via these bond settlements that they made in 1998. Not to mention, all these tobacco companies promised that they would pay $206 billion over the first 25 years, and they're seeing that number slip. So they had to figure out how to do something about it, and banning it was the easiest way to do it and create hysteria and make sure that people got it into their brain and ingrained into their mind that these vaping devices weren't so good for you. But they'll flip that script real quick in 4 months when the Philip Morris device IQOS comes out, after they put everyone out of business. It's kind of disheartening, kind of insane. You almost have to laugh at it. It's just pure corruption right in front of you, but no one's talking about it. Everyone's all caught up in, but what about alcohol? But what about cigarettes? But what about, they want people to discuss those types of things, because if you actually do any sort of digging past the, well, what about, instead of having an emotional response, you got to go into it with an investigative type response. You can't think emotionally about these things, but because they want you to be emotional about this stuff. They want you to think about, well, what about tobacco? They didn't ban that, but what about alcohol? And they always use the kids as the shield. I understand that this shit is bad for kids, and I'm not advocating vaping, but I'm advocating for people to have a safe way to not use cigarettes anymore, or a safer way not to use cigarettes. I'm also advocating for small business. There's a bunch of small businesses out there. What about their kids? What about their mortgage? What about their lifestyle? Oh, we ain't worried about that though. We just got to get in, do the damage quick, and then get out, and then act like this new device that we come out with will be the best ever and get everyone hooked and continue to keep people on nicotine, and people will automatically think it's safer because it's FDA approved and yada, yada, yada. It's all about money, like it always has been and always will be. There is nothing in life that is not about money. It will always, especially here in the great free United States of America, it will always be about money. Oh, and I forgot to add one more thing. This goes to show how far the corruption goes, where this was totally illogical and totally nonsensical. Even the regulated devices that are in medical dispensaries and recreational dispensaries have been disbarred from sale. They cannot sell them, even though they've been tested by the government. The program that the government set up in order to sell legal marijuana in this state, those places, their shit isn't good, even though it's been tested. That goes to show you how fast they're trying to enact this ban and trying to get these vape shops shut down instantly so they can set up for the bigger play, to line big tobacco. That's always what it is about. And these corporations will have a thumb on us if we don't stand up and do something about it. Now, I'm not going to get, advocacy and all that stuff, but I just want you guys to be aware, like I said at the beginning, make sure that there's always something else. They're never giving us the full story. The news doesn't really, the news today isn't really reporting these facts. They aren't talking about any of this. They're just saying, well, it's a vape ban, blah, 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 blah. And then there's no detail. I remember, trying to watch the news last night, and there was no detail. I was like, well, their vape ban starts tomorrow. We're just going to, be serving people, making them clear out their inventory instantly. And they showed that shit on the news today. They're just walking into shops, giving them a letter. There's no legislation required because it's a health emergency. Sign it. You got to clear your shelves now. Shut the door immediately. No warning. Insane. I'm going to leave you with one last piece of advice before I leave. And we'll go ahead and... I can't get back to my desktop. My hotkeys are all messed up. All right, there we go. One last piece of advice. Here's the only thing that's going to keep you safe since we're driving people to black markets for all vaping. If your shit looks like this, if you were buying this and it looks like this shit is not real. Dank vapes. Lemon berry, tangy, sour diesel, and fruity pebbles. This shit is probably $10. Probably came from China. I'm just trying to educate, since we are all going to be forced to go back to the black market that we know is the problem. Do not buy shit that looks like this. All right? I'm just looking out for you. Your bro, Adam Toll, is looking out for you. Don't buy bad shit. That's all I got to say. I'm going to leave you with that. All right, we'll be back hopefully with another episode tomorrow. Possibly Saturday. I do not know what the weekend entails. Possibly with a interview with a fellow vape shop owner, actually. So I hope that we can set that up. And I think I've said it all today. At least I think I'm feeling a little bit better now that I got that off my chest. I've been thinking about this all day. I had to work. Was even getting me fired up at work. But I'm glad that I was able to share that with you. All right, we'll see you guys next time. Peace.
That's what